Good morning. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General. Thank you for joining us today. Sorry for the late start and appreciate your presence. We are here today to talk about our ghost gun report that we are putting out today at the California Department of Justice, specifically our Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Very important data and information with respect to, one, the significant challenges that we have faced in recent years when it comes to ghost guns and our ghost gun crisis, but also a report that is full of hope in the sense that we have made significant progress here in California with concrete, tangible actions we've taken when it comes to litigation, when it comes to legislation and policy changes. We've been able to really move the needle when it comes to our ghost guns, and we believe, as always, that California, when it comes to promoting gun safety to best practices, we remain a blueprint for others to follow. If other states are having some of the same challenges that California has had when it comes to ghost guns, they too may take similar steps to the ones we have taken to help reduce the threats of ghost guns in our neighborhoods and our communities in your and our states. So we are very proud to be issuing this report, again, from the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, talking about the progress we've made, the challenges that we've had that remain ahead of us. But very important data here. We hope that you will review it, look at the information inside, and use it as a guide. We don't want these to gather dust. We want them to be inspiration for action. And so a lot of guidance for action that can be taken to protect our communities from ghost guns. And let me just say this. When it comes to gun violence, California is a model of what's possible through common sense action. 30 years ago, we had one of the highest firearm mortality rates in the nation. Today, we have one of the lowest firearm mortality rates in the nation. That is because of action we've taken, steps that we have taken to reduce gun violence that are common sense, things like background checks and waiting periods, things like bans on large capacity magazines and on assault weapons, more robust use of violence interruption programs and red flag laws. Those are pathways forward through action. And the threat of gun violence, it can change. It is not static. It is dynamic. Ghost guns were not a threat a decade ago, over a decade ago. They have grown as a risk and threat in recent years, and new threats lay on the horizon. Things like 3D printers and milling machines where you can actually manufacture in your own home your own gun. And without necessarily going through the steps of purchasing a gun through a licensed dealer, making sure the gun is serialized, and making sure that your background check clears so that you're able to possess the gun. But we do have laws in California that address that issue as well, so we remain a model. So we're excited about this report, and it was researched and written by DOJ's Office of Gun Violence Prevention. It represents the most comprehensive report to date on the issue of ghost guns and on California's response. So a important and precedent-setting report. And I do want to just say some thank yous before I get too far ahead in talking about the report and the light that it shines on our future and also where we've been. I want to say thank you to Senior Policy Counsel of Everytown for Gun Safety, Crystal Lowe Pilato, who is here, Policy Director of Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, Mike McLively, and the inimitable Ari Freilich, our Director of Office of Gun Violence Prevention, who has led us through multiple important reports, important actions that we've taken, including this one today. So thank you, Ari. For those who may not know, let me just take a step back and talk about what a ghost gun is. It's important that we are precise in our definition of what we're talking about here. They are actually even scarier than they sound. Ghost guns are unserialized, untraceable firearms assembled by individuals who are not licensed to manufacture firearms, and mostly sold to people who aren't legally allowed to have them. So in a typical firearm transaction, you have a licensed dealer that is the seller of the firearm. You have a purchaser who goes through a legally required background check, and if the background check clears, then the firearm is marked with a unique serial number. None of that happens when it comes to ghost guns. And the difference between ghost guns and other do-it-yourself DIY firearms is that ghost guns are built from products sold without, again, those background checks, without sale records, serial numbers, or other basic safety precautions, common sense approaches that allow us to keep track of them and keep our communities safe. Common sense protections that have existed for decades to help control very dangerous weapons, protections that are supported by an overwhelming majority of Americans. The ghost gun industry has had widespread appeal to people who are too young or too dangerous to legally own firearms. That is largely the folks who are purchasing ghost guns. If you have a credit card and an internet connection, you were able to buy a ghost gun. And until some of the important laws kicked in here in California and our action when it comes to legislation. So one of the ways that we look at the ghost gun industry and the sale of ghost guns is that this is a skip the background check industry. It is a approach that bypasses the very important safety step of a background check. Ghost guns, just to be clear, they have been used as weapons in mass shootings, in domestic violence incidents, gang and community violence shootings, in hate crime shootings, in unintentional shootings by children, and so many other devastating situations. So this isn't a theoretical or abstract threat or risk. These ghost guns have actually been used in multiple incidents where folks have been hurt or worse, killed. They pose an enormous threat to public safety. And let me just, as an anecdote, share a little bit about what the challenge of ghost guns has been in California. In 2020, in San Jose, officers arrested a man for domestic violence. They recovered a ghost gun that he had pointed at his victim to threaten her and to abuse her. When officers informed him that due to a court issued protection order, he was no longer legally allowed to possess a gun, he was not moved by that. He replied that he would simply build another one. He'd get another ghost gun, and no one would know. No one would be the wiser. No one would stop him from doing it. So he was confident about his access to another ghost gun, even with the court order. And this story is emblematic of the horrific toll of ghost guns in our communities. There's many other stories in our report that I would refer you to. They show that for victims and survivors and so many others, ghost guns have been a leading threat to our public safety. And that's why it's so important that we document and understand the harm the ghost gun industry has caused, and that we, most importantly, use that data, use that evidence to guide our action, our next steps, our pathway forward. We believe that good data is the foundation for progress, and it's also the first step of a two-step process. You need to use the data to take action. And so the report traces the origins of the ghost gun crisis, which is, has shown an alarming proliferation of ghost guns across different types of crime from 2013 to 2021. The report found that each year from 2013 to 2021, California law enforcement agencies reported massive increases in the number of ghost guns recovered from crime scenes across our state, especially during the pandemic. So from 2019 to 2021, there was nearly a 600% increase in ghost guns recovered from crime in California. And in just those 2 years, a 1,236% increase in ghost guns recovered from domestic violence and abuse crimes, over 1,000% increase in ghost guns recovered from violent gun crimes, a nearly 1,000% increase in ghost guns recovered from crime involving violations of court orders, parole, or probation. So ghost gun recoveries spiked in the COVID time period broadly, 2019 to 2021. And that data shows that the pandemic era increase in gun crime that we saw was in very large part fueled by the ghost gun industry. So a really important insight about that spike in gun crime during the COVID period. And while much of the data in this report is, it's hard to read because of the challenges it shows, the devastation created by ghost guns, it also, as I mentioned before, is full of hope. Hope for a solution, hope for change, hope for the proposition that things don't have to continue to be this way. With action, fueled by data and evidence, we can make a difference, we can move the needle, we can transform. In recent years, California has taken strong, comprehensive action to respond to this safety threat. This response included critical law enforcement actions to disrupt ghost gun trafficking and illegal manufacturing operations, and to get illegal ghost guns out of our communities. It also included litigation to hold ghost gun companies accountable, including our own that we brought with the San Francisco District Attorney's Office and others. It also included litigation to hold federal regulators accountable for failing to apply federal firearm laws to the ghost gun industry. And California's response also included the nation's most comprehensive ghost gun reform legislation. So a package of laws that really focused on ghost guns and made sure that we were regulating them appropriately, that we were treating our frames and receivers as firearms, as they should be. Many of the major provisions of California's ghost gun reforms took effect in June of 2022. That's when they kicked in. And as the report documents, it's no coincidence that we've seen substantial progress against ghost guns since that time, since that date. From 2021 to 2023, California law enforcement agencies reported a 23% decrease in ghost gun recoveries, and that decrease has driven the decline in crime gun recoveries in our state. So ghost guns drove the increase in some of the crime gun recoveries, and it also is driving the decrease. New legislation also went into effect at the beginning of this year to address that emerging threat I was mentioning of ghost gun production through 3D printers and CNC milling machines and other ghost gun manufacturing machines. So we really encourage all of our law enforcement partners to familiarize themselves with these laws, these legal tools to help identify and address dangerous and illegal ghost gun industry practices. So again, our significant recent progress indicates that California's efforts present a model for what can be done effectively to address our ghost gun crisis. Other policymakers should take note as well in other states as well as at the national level. And let me, as I close, just make one reference to a very important U.S. Supreme Court case that is around the corner. Oral arguments are being heard next week in Garland versus Vanderstock. It's a case challenging actions taken by the Biden administration's ATF to ensure that certain ghost gun products are subject to federal firearm laws, like dealer background check requirements. We support the ATF's approach, and we encourage the U.S. Supreme Court to take up this case and overturn the Fifth Circuit's decision that would threaten to leave the ghost gun industry dangerously unregulated at the federal level. Ghost guns are guns. They need to be regulated as guns. There is a common sense and clear approach for how to do that. We have adopted that approach here in California. We also need the federal government to do the same. So we're hopeful that the U.S. Supreme Court can take this important action to protect public safety. At DOJ, we recognize that ghost guns for the threat that they are, and we're taking action to address them. We also know that while progress is important and moving the needle in the right direction is critical, that even one death, one shooting, is too many. So we're going to keep at it. We're not going to be satisfied until we are even more safe from our ghost guns. And again, this report that I had showed earlier is really the pathway forward. So make sure you spend some time with it, take a look, and follow the guidance. We have a lot to be proud of in California. This is another moment where We take pride in the action we're taking to keep our communities free from gun violence, to make sure that they are safe. If other states in the nation across the United States followed the pathway that California has taken, we would have, in one decade, nearly 140,000 Americans with us today who have passed away from gun violence. So the numbers don't lie in terms of the progress we've made, the ability to keep our community safe from gun violence. And this report affirms that the ghost gun industry's focus on California is a testament to just how strong our gun safety laws are. So I want to say thank you for spending time with us today to learn more about our ghost gun challenges and progress in California. Our action that we've taken remains a model for others to take as well. We hope others will take us up on that invitation to keep their community safe from ghost guns as well. And with that, I'd like to pass it to Senior Policy Counsel of Everytown for Gun Safety, Crystal Lowe Pilato.
Good morning. Thank you for being here, and I especially want to thank Attorney General Bonta, the California Department of Justice, the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, and the office's director, Ari Freilich, for bringing us all together. My name is Crystal Lowe Pilato, and I serve as Senior Policy Counsel for Everytown for Gun Safety. Together with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense and Students Demand Action, Everytown is the nation's largest gun violence prevention organization working on research, policy, litigation, and legislative and culture change to end gun violence. We're so grateful to the California Office of Gun Violence Prevention for being so diligent and thorough in preparing reports like the one being released today. These reports exemplify the power of gathering and sharing data so that policymakers at the local, state, and federal level can all chart the next step forward. We've known for years that ghost guns present a uniquely pernicious problem within the gun violence epidemic. As you've heard today, ghost guns are unlicensed, untraceable, build-your-own firearms. They've been fueling violent crime, and that outcome is entirely predictable because the bulk of the market for this product is people who want access to a no-questions-asked gun that can't be tied back to them. The industry even advertised ghost guns that way, as the report notes, with eager assurances that these products offered a fully functional firearm without the hurdles of a background check. This report tells a compelling story. When businesses in the firearm industry decided to make do-it-yourself gun-making kits to skirt state and federal gun safety laws, California pushed back. That included a comprehensive legislative response, which persisted over years as the nature of the threat evolved into multi-part kits and firearm manufacturing machines. California's effort also included robust investigation and enforcement at the state and local levels, and it included high-impact litigation to hold bad actors accountable. This story is a model for other states to follow, especially as the protections under the federal ATF rule are both more narrow in scope and vulnerable to changes in the presidential administration and a current challenge before the U.S. Supreme Court. But this story is also a reminder for those of us right here in California that there's more work ahead. California does have the strongest gun laws in the country, and on that basis alone, it's going to continue to be an appealing market for an industry dedicated to providing deadly weapons to people seeking to bypass background checks and other gun safety laws. As we look to the future, it's imperative that the entire public safety ecosystem here in California stays tuned into this threat. The laws we've passed in recent years provide tools in both the criminal and civil legal systems to curb the proliferation of these weapons and to hold the ghost gun industry accountable, as well as unlicensed firearms manufacturers. And these tools are working. I serve on the policy and legislative side of our organization, but I'm really proud to work beside our affirmative litigation team at Everytown Law, which has filed and co-counseled in multiple lawsuits to hold the ghost gun industry accountable for the harms it has caused right here in California. These lawsuits, along with the great lawsuits filed by the California Department of Justice, have been chipping away at big industry actors for the last few years. And sure enough, just a month ago, the nation's largest producer of ghost gun kits shuttered its business, essentially demonstrating that its business model was not compatible with the level of legal challenges brought after smart ghost gun regulations were enacted. Of course, that's not the end of the story in California. Great progress has been made, as this report notes so well, and we must continue this work. Thankfully, the report that Attorney General Bonta's team is releasing today has a fantastic reference guide of legal tools that law enforcement officers, prosecutors, city attorneys, county counsel, civil litigators, and advocates for victims and survivors can all proactively use to reduce gun violence in our state. We're proud to stand by leaders like Attorney General Bonta, Cal DOJ, the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, and partners like Giffords Law Center as California continues to implement, innovate, and litigate its way towards a safer future. Thank you. Next, I believe you'll be hearing from Mike McLively with Giffords Law Center.
Thanks so much, Crystal. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. My name is Mike McLively. I'm the Policy Director of the Giffords Center for Violence Intervention. Giffords is a national gun violence prevention organization named after former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with. She was shot back in 2011 while hosting an event for her constituents in Tucson, Arizona, and has worked tirelessly ever since to address the epidemic of gun violence in the United States. And our organization works all over the country, but many of us have worked here in California for decades and are very proud of our work with many of our partners in the legislature, the executive branch, and our partners like Everytown and Moms Demand Action for gun safety. I really want to thank Attorney General Bonta at the top and Director Ari Freilich for their work on this report. And I think it's very important to say and repeat, really, that while we have a lot more work to do, California is an incredible success story when it comes to addressing the epidemic of gun violence. And we're really a model for the rest of the nation in this regard. 30 years ago, as you heard, California had the third highest rate of gun homicides in the entire country and the 16th highest rate of overall gun mortality. After 3 decades plus of gun safety reforms and investments in both law enforcement and community-based public safety strategies, we now have the 7th lowest gun death rate in the nation and significantly lower than in states like Texas and in Florida. Part of our success here has been our willingness and the willingness of our leaders to examine the trends, to take a look at the data, and to take innovative action to stay in front of those trends. And it's no different when it comes to ghost guns. This is such an important report for so many reasons, and a great illustration of why the Office for Gun Violence Prevention matters so much to the state. In incredibly clear terms, this report lays out the alarming rise of ghost guns in our communities over the last few years here in California, and also the encouraging news that we're starting to bend the curve through a combination of smart legislation, enforcement, and litigation against irresponsible manufacturers and dealers of these dangerous weapons. And as you've heard, ghost guns are so dangerous to our communities because they don't have serial numbers, which makes it nearly impossible for law enforcement to trace them in the event that they're used to commit a crime. And in addition, it makes it very easy for someone who's otherwise prohibited from owning a gun to get their hands on one. And these were essentially designed to bypass our background check laws and other systems that we have in place to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people. And that's why at Giffords we've been very proud to partner with the Attorney General's office on numerous efforts to stem the tide on ghost guns, including partnering on a lawsuit against 3 major ghost gun dealers here in California that was settled earlier this year, resulting in these companies agreeing to stop selling unserialized parts that are used to build ghost guns here in California, and also paying significant civil penalties as a result. This report is incredibly encouraging that our collective efforts, including, as was mentioned, several pieces of major legislation signed by Governor Newsom and passed by the legislature over the last 2 years, all of this is working. At the same time, it's clear we have more left to do. As you heard, just next week, the U.S. Supreme Court is going to hear a challenge to the federal ATF's rule regulating ghost guns. If that is ultimately struck down, which is entirely possible given the fairly extremist nature of the Supreme Court that we have right now, it will be more important than ever for our state leaders, including Attorney General Bonta and Governor Newsom and our leaders in the California legislature, to continue leading the way on this issue and giving an example to the rest of the country. We should have a lot of hope here in California that we are moving in the right direction on this issue, not just on ghost guns, but on gun violence in general, which I'm very happy to say has been dropping significantly over the last months and years here in California. By not letting up, by putting out reports like the one that the Office of Gun Violence Prevention is putting out today, and continuing to keep guns out of dangerous hands while also investing in community-based solutions, we will continue to build on our vision of a safer California and provide an example for the rest of the nation. I want to end by just expressing a huge thanks to Director Ari Freilich, Attorney General Bonta, and the entire team here at the Attorney General's office for your efforts to keep our community safer and your ongoing partnership. Thank you so much for your work, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.